I work with a lot of gay men, and through that, I've explored intimacy on emotional and sexual levels with my clients. The work has taught me a lot, not just about others, but about myself and the stories I tell myself about people. It's easy to fall into judgment, especially towards other gay men. I know I do it. For me, it often comes from fear, the fear of being judged or criticized first. Honestly, I think a lot of us are just walking around scared as fuck. We grew up terrified someone might find out we were gay, and then we came out and found ourselves worrying all over again about not fitting in. It's ironic. We divide ourselves into all these subgroups within the gay community, and then we end up fearing those very groups and how they'll perceive us. In my work, I've connected with all types of gay men, and what I've seen is that we share so many of the same fears about our bodies, our age, our social status, but at the core, it's really a fear of not being loved. Sex, in many ways, is a space where we can feel seen and desired by another person. For queer men to be seen like that by another man, or any queer person who never got to feel that growing up, it's powerful. That's what I wish more people understood. We often get caught up in the superficial and miss what's really important, which is how someone makes us feel. When we learn what safety feels like with another person, we open ourselves up to deeper connection, intimacy, more desire. In this episode, I talk with Firefly Tantra, a Tantra teacher whose work also centers on intimacy and connection. We explore what our work really looks like and hope to offer some insight into what we've learned. This is Mask Off for Mask, and I'm Vance. Hey, Firefly. Firefly
No.
Tantra, right?
Yes. Firefly Tantra is kind of the name I work under, like the business name, you know. My name's
Yeah.
Firefly, and I do Tantra, so Firefly Tantra.
Yeah. And so this is our first time chatting, so
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about you besides the fact that you're a Tantra coach. Is that what you would say is mainly your thing?
Yeah. I probably would say Tantra teacher than coach. It's quite a great area, you know, coaching and therapy and kind of that. But I
Yeah.
guess what I want to do is use Tantra for self-development. Because people go, does that mean you're going to coach me through doing a massage? So it's really hard to kind of capture what it is. So at the moment, I think I'm calling myself a Tantra therapist, but then someone said, you can't use the word therapy. So I just say a Tantrika.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had one of my friends, and I don't think he meant to say this, but I think so. Like, I'm a somatic sex coach, and that's or an intimacy coach or whatever, and that's like what I got
Mm.
certified in and did my work in. But one of my friends said to me one time, and I think it was accidentally, he called me a somatic sex worker, and I was like, oh, that actually sounds more like what I am. And I've thought about saying that, but then it's funny because I think people's minds because I noticed that there's obviously a stigma on sex work, and so a lot of times I think maybe people feel like, oh, I'm going to go see a sex worker, like I don't want to do that. So it's been this like me trying to explain what I do, and I also say that I'm more closer to an escort than a therapist, but the only difference with me is probably I have a lot more boundaries, and I hope I can teach you something along the way or give you an experience that is about authenticity and intimacy, right?
Mm.
So that's the difference is like you can come to me and I'm going to help you to stay connected to your body the most. So I have all these other skills to help you, but I'm basically doing the same thing that an escort does.
There's there's the world of kind of sex work is immense because yes, it can just be it can just be purely transactional sex, but even sex therapy comes under sex work. Yeah, it's just so vast. So if you say to someone, I'm a sex worker, they just straight away think you're in red stiletto boots and
Yeah.
work in the
Yeah.
street, don't they? So yeah, I tend to stay away from that as well, which is a shame.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
also people don't recognize how, like, even with my work, sometimes I just have clients who I think they find it easier to just pay to have intimacy with me over trying to go on Grinder or something to find a hookup, right?
Right.
And so, like, I tell clients too, I'm like, there's not, like, we're always just going to be ourselves. So I always say to guys, it's like, think about it like you're coming for a hookup or a first date.
Oh, okay.
to kind of like frame it better because that's what it is. It's not going to be me sitting and like giving you advice like a therapist because I'm not a psychotherapist, right? But I lost my train of thought. What was I saying about that?
Yeah, but that is really valid work, you know.
Yeah.
Don't you in the States kind of call that kind of sacred intimacy, or is that something
Well,
different?
I'm Canadian. I'm in Toronto.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I know that they do call so other guys in this work call it sacred intimacy. And I think what probably both of us do, but for me, I think it's just this what the sacred part is that you get to be yourself or how do you do that practice of sex to be yourself, right? Which
Yeah,
can
I
feel
get.
sacred, but I also know that people who aren't maybe as in the world of spirituality and all this stuff, might get not understand that word.
Mm,
So I tend not to use it.
yeah, but also that's like the word tantra, which is doesn't seem to be used as much over on your side of the world. But I
Yeah.
know that the, people will come to me and say, "I want to come to you to experience tantra," and I've done it before, and they may have before just had a massage with a happy ending, and that's completely valid, and kind of can, I guess, in some worlds could be seen as tantra, because in with tantra there are no like right and wrong, or good or bad. It's just all about experience. But for me, when people come, it's much more. The work I do is very much about bringing spirituality to their sexuality. So a lot of the work we will be doing uh, is learning how to connect with each other in almost in a meditative way. So just being with each other. First of all, we'll always start with a bit of kind of therapy, if you like, kind of talking, person-centered approach stuff. Just really to get to know each other, and to get them to feel safe with me. Because if they don't feel safe with me, they're never going to really be able to be in the experience. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll then take them into meditation basically, but on each other. Because you may have done like meditation sometimes where there's I don't know what it's called, but the one where you completely focus on the candle, on the flame. It's quite a famous meditation. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like doing the same, but on each other. So we're completely just giving all of ourselves to each other and just practicing that for a long time. And then I go into kind of ritual undressing, and that's where it becomes sacred, really, because it's about, for me, undressing this person, and this is very in the sort of world of Tantra, but undressing this person as if they were a god, as if they, as if you can see all the good and what's godly in them, rather than, and that's what Tantra is all about, basically, is let's not worship a god that's out there and up somewhere beyond us. The god is in us. And that's what all the work that I do, and other people that do this work, is about getting the person to see that that is within them and that they deserve to be loved. And then from there, depending on what they want to work on, it can always change. It may be something that they just want to experience what it's like to have lingam massage, which is kind of cock massage, very sort of particular techniques which you've probably come across. It's quite well known through, I think, Body Electric were one of the first sort of
Yeah.
people that said it in that the way it's kind of done. It may be that they just want to learn how to read somebody else's body. So we just touching each other and seeing from following each other's breath where we're responding. Because you could do the slightest touch on someone and they could be completely just not responding. But if that person starts to, you can just tell by the way they breathe and the sounds they make that they're enjoying it, and you learn to then get in flow with the other person and read. So that's kind of a lot of the work I do. So when people say I want to experience tantra, that could be very different from the massage with genital stimulation. So
Well,
the world is huge, I think, is what I'm trying to say. It's just so vast, all the different services that are provided.
yeah. I see like the way that so I do like very similar things, but I think what I look at it as so even when I work with every client for myself is a practice. So I remember when I first started doing this work, and it was hard to get myself out of the because I'm not a psychotherapist. So, but it's easy to be like, oh, I'm the sex coach, so this person's gonna come over and I want to give them advice and help them. But I have to be more in the mindset of, oh, I just have to be myself. So the practice is like if I think too much about it too, like even if the guy says, if he reaches out to me and says, oh, I have problems with staying hard when I'm having sex, I'm in my head the whole time. I'm like, okay, great. That's fine. Whatever. Because honestly, it's like, it's still, again, if I focus too much on that I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to focus on trying to get you to do this thing. Then I'm
Mm.
going to be like, okay, well, I'm trying too hard to make the situation into what I want it to be. Whereas the practice is coming back to being like, I just have to be myself. Because something else might
Mm.
come up that has nothing to do with what he wants to work on, right? So
Yeah.
the practice is, so when this guy comes in, that's why I always say to guys, think about it like you're coming for a first date and maybe we're going to hook up and play and maybe we're not. Because then it's like, because they'll be like, I'm really nervous. I'm like, that's okay. I just want you to come in and it's okay to be nervous and I'll help you just to relax by getting to know you, right? And just letting your body naturally start to relax and calm down on its own by feeling safe with me. And
Mm.
then, so the practice of it, we move into something sexual. Like one of the things I notice is like I have to keep my boundaries, but I might notice my own ego stuff come into my head about how I feel about my body or his body, and I have to use touch, breath, movement, sound, right, to all come back into just my body. Because the thing that I've learned, because from doing this for like 4 years now, that like I think about, oh my god, I've like worked with, I don't know, hundreds of guys, I guess, or a lot of guys, right? And I've learned that all that stuff that comes up in my head, that's ego stuff that might be like, oh, he's not my type, or I'm not attracted to this, none of that matters.
Mm.
And the best times that I've had where I've gotten really aroused and been able to get into it too is a guy that makes me feel safe, a guy that can let go and get into it. So I
Right.
notice if I'm
Yeah.
like, if he's not, if he's in his head the whole time and I'm trying really hard to, I'm like, how does that feel? What can I do to make this better? And I'm doing all these things, but he's staying in his head. I'm not going to let go because I
Mm.
know he's not feeling safe. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, this is where we're at, right? And right now, I'm just going to try to get you to feel safe, know it's okay, that you don't have to get hard, you don't have to be aroused, you just have to be, right? And so maybe it takes a
Mm.
few more sessions, right? But all again, all of this stuff is all the stuff that we think matters with sex and love and connection and relationships usually isn't the thing. It's more so about how can you let go of all of that and just be connected to
Definitely.
your body and your partner.
Yeah. Which is also what, I trained in somatic therapy, which is similar to psychotherapy, but coming from the body. And, that's essentially even what psychotherapy teaches about being the most authentic and regulated you can with somebody that gets them to co-regulate with you and then, and essentially then makes them feel the most comfortable they can to be able to explore all this, all the work, sex, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. And that's why I say it's like a practice, and the homework that I give guys is to practice meditation or yoga, because I'm like, it's the same skill
Mm.
of you go on your mat and you practice and the experience is what it is, right? And you have
Yeah.
to just be authentic and do the poses that feel right for your body, and the goal is just to calm your nervous system and
Mm.
to breathe. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the same thing when you go into sex, that all that shame and all that stuff is going to come up because it's a very vulnerable experience with someone. And you have to learn how to navigate through that, right?
Do you talk about that at all with people? When that stuff does come up, because whenever you work with sexuality, it brings up, as you say, issues, shame, jealousy, or all these experiences that people have had. Do you then do any work with that?
Yeah, so that's what I want to have happen, right? So
Mm.
if a guy says, I get into my head when I'm having sex, okay, well, I always say that's a common, happens to everybody, right? And some people a little bit more, and you got to learn how to get through that. But I'll notice the moment, or maybe the whole time, but even if I'm doing something like we're doing touch and I'm massaging the guy and I notice that he's in his head, because I can tell, I'm like, I'll be like, how does that feel? Trying to keep it all erotic. And he's like, great, thanks. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, you're not turned on. So I'll be like, so then I stop and say, what's going on? Like, and he's like, I'm just in my head.
Mm.
What are you in your head about? Because that's the thing that you need to come up, or like to connect with me, because there's this fear, and it's usually I'm just worried about the way my body looks, or the size of my dick, or the fact that I'm not hard, or just
Mm.
religious trauma, or all this shit's coming in, right? And I'm like, if you connect with me and bring that out, because that is the shame that you're scared that I'm going to judge you or criticize you for. But if you tell me what is in your head, like if you're saying I'm feeling self-conscious about my body, I'll be like, your body's beautiful. Like I feel really great with you. So I'm trying to make you feel safe with the shame that you brought up, right? So that's
Mm.
like not the hope, but like that's what I'm trying to get at is how do you get that issue to come up of shame usually, and how do you move through that? And if you can be very like, specific about having a partner that can make you feel safe and can do the things that you need to feel safe, right?
Yeah, there's a great practice as well with body image stuff. Of and it's quite edgy, but to get someone to stand in front of a mirror and tell you, kind of read their body, tell you what they like about each part of their body. They're not allowed to say anything they don't like, so they can only say what parts they do like. And then to get them, what I've done sometimes is get them away from the mirror, and we just work on getting their sexual energy sort of rising and self-pleasuring. And then when they're really in their most kind of, excited, sexual, wild state, to then go back to the mirror and really enjoy seeing themselves in their kind of ultimate sexual, power. And it really works,
Mm-hmm.
people that are like, wow, they feel, because, you're getting them to a place where they feel so sexy, and then confronted with it, it dips a little bit, but at the same time, most of them say they got really aroused seeing themselves. And then you can say, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's what, when you're in that authentic kind of place of just being completely raw in your sexuality, then that's what people will respond to, and will find that attractive regardless of whether you've got a stretch mark or, or scar or something.
Mm. Yeah, and I, the drag queen Trixie Mattel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember she said one time she was like how she felt about her body, and she was like, I don't really love my body, but she's like, I don't gotta fuck myself. And I was like, yeah, like all this stuff about you feel about the way your body feels is like focus on feeling good in your body and not so
Mm,
much the way that it looks, or noticing that if that triggers you, just try to push back and be like, it's okay. Like we all have
yeah.
things that we don't like about our body, but if we keep trying to change our body to fit into that whatever that idea is that we think is a body that has worth, then well, we're just listening to that shame, and so it's just gonna be this like endless thing. So you at least have to just you don't have to like love your body, you just have to know how to feel good in your body.
Mm. It's so strange, that body image thing. I mean, I struggled with it, but it's so, it's kind of so not important. If
No, it's not.
we get to a place, like you're saying, through yoga and meditation, when you realize that there's so much to be experienced with our bodies, we can use our bodies to have these incredible experiences, spiritual experiences. And that's what's important, not how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, I guess it's society that puts on us, with the images of this is how you should look. And then we compare ourselves to that.
This
Yeah,
is the
when,
thing that Oh, I was gonna say this is the thing that I find so crazy about the gay community, especially, and probably, I mean, everyone, but the fact that we focus so much on looks when it's not the skill of sex. So
mm,
you can make your body look amazing and you can be super hot, but that doesn't mean that you're good in bed. So what
yeah.
is the point? Like that was the thing that I started to see, that especially doing this work, and I feel pretty like I've been doing yoga forever, and so anyways I've practiced staying connected to my body, and I know how to deal with stuff. Like there's stuff about my body that I don't like, but I know how to like not let it affect me sexually, so I can let go pretty easily,
Mm,
and I just love sex. And so I can let go. But then it was like I was having sex with these guys, or I'd go to hook up with a guy that I was like, oh wow, he's so hot. I was like, that was awful. Like, I
mm,
could tell he was in his head the whole time, or like there was all these things that I was like, this isn't, what is the point? Like, why am I focusing so hard on making my body look perfect when it doesn't mean pleasure,
no,
right? It's just about how other people see you.
yeah.
And so if
And
you can
also,
understand,
some people, not all, but some people that spend so long making their body look good, that's a signal of something that that they're not completely comfortable with their body. So when you
yeah.
are having sex with them, they're still more concerned with their body than with yours. And actually that happens quite a lot when you have sex with people that have are so concerned with creating the perfect body that they're not there with you. They're not even trying to work out what turns you on.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's why, and I think with social media now that you're constantly getting, images of hot guys and hot people that
Mm.
we've come more like, oh, I just want to be liked more and I want to be liked by these hot people. And I think that's where all of that comes from. But if
Yeah.
you can have, and I think maybe sometimes guys just haven't had the experience of knowing what sex feels like when you let go and you feel completely safe. And
Mm.
so they don't even know what that experience is like of having really great sex where,
Yeah.
it's like two people not being in their heads and just letting like pleasure drive
Mm.
the whole sexual experience, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've had experiences with, and I really sort of pride myself on the fact that I can give affection and love and compassion to anyone. Like, everyone
Mm.
deserves it, and I can do that. But there's been times where I've been challenged, and I'll be honest, where someone's walked in and I've gone, wow, this is going to be challenging. Maybe I'll let you use your imagination why.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but when you're working with this person and the joy that you can't help but feed off the joy that they're feeling, and then you feel aroused by what and it's just,
Hmm.
you're just getting to this. I've had some of the best experiences with people like that, actually. Maybe because of the surprise of it, but also just, yeah, just completely trying to be in the moment with them and
Yeah,
feeling it.
totally. Yeah. I know, and that's the thing about when you say the challenging thing. So I can say I've gotten really good at this work where, like, the one I won't take a client that doesn't make me feel safe, and it has happened only I think twice, where it was like so. For example, this one guy was messaging me a lot and wanted to come over for this session, but was like he kept on messaging me over and over, like every day, like 10 messages that were like, are we gonna do this, are we gonna do this, like I would love to fuck you, and I was like, I don't do that. And so I was like, okay, I'm already feeling like this person is not understanding boundaries at all. So I was
Mm,
like, I didn't listen to myself and being like, okay, you're not ready for this work, like you need to maybe go see someone else because like I don't feel safe before I've even met you. And so when this person showed up, I was like, oh God, this is going to be hard. Because I was like, he's creeping me out. I know he's going to try to push my boundaries. And so I was like, I don't want to be, I'm obviously not aroused because I don't feel safe. So it
mm,
was like, the whole ended up going to an okay place, but it was like we were trying to practice stuff, but I was getting so frustrated with how he was not connecting to me and pushing my boundaries. So at one
okay.
point I was like, we're stopping. And I was like, do you know how you're making me feel? I was like, because I was like, I don't care if this guy walks out now because I don't want to do
Yeah.
this anymore. This is not worth it, right? Um, but the lesson that this guy had to learn, I was like, you're not going to get anywhere with anyone if you act this way. Like, you need to change this behavior
Mm.
before anything else. And for him, it was like, oh, it's the way that I look and it's, I'm older and all these things that he thinks the shame is about. I was like, no, you're being a fucking creep. You're being an asshole. Like, you're being so fucking rude and arrogant. That's your problem. So I was like, you don't even see that. You got to work on that stuff first, right? But he was so far away from understanding how to have empathy, compassion, connection, all that stuff.
Mm.
So I mean, it's
That's
awful for
good.
him. But I was like, you have to, right? You have to get to a place where you can accept people's boundaries and be respectful. And everyone, for the most part, that I work with is. And with that baseline, I know we can either have a really great sexual experience or maybe we can just connect and this person can open up, right?
Well, I think I'm putting out what I put out there. I don't know if you've seen like on my website and stuff is very specific. So I only really get people that come to me that are interested in tantra um, from a spiritual perspective. That's what's happening. So something is working right that I'm only really drawing those people. But I do have an introductory call with everyone. So just to see, because they might, once we have the introductory call, they may be, wow, I don't like where this person's coming from, from them as much as from me. But also then I can really I'll talk about sort of the origins of Tantra with them and where they think Tantra could take them. And, so we're really coming to it from the same headspace and not just because they can go, there are lots of other services that may be providing what they're looking for, But if they come to me, I'm going to be forcing them to do breath work. I'm going to be forcing them to do meditation, and that may not be what they want. So I have to be very clear before they come. And so far, that sort of works out well.
Yeah. Yeah, when I jump on a call, it's more so to explain the boundaries, and so that also helps me to feel safe. It's going to
Mm,
be just touch based, and you can bring stuff up, and we can play all within those boundaries, just so that they know when they come in, and I know I don't have to go through this of setting boundaries in the moment. I can hope that they
yeah.
can just respect my boundaries
It sounds
before
like
they
you're
show
good
up.
with your boundaries. Better than me, probably.
Sometimes to be honest, especially when I first started doing this work, I was just so desperate for clients that I think I let my boundaries kind of slip. And I find that sometimes I do this too, where, because like even when I have guys that haven't brought up issues and I'm seeing something come up, I have a really hard time with just being direct because I know it's gonna they might feel rejected, or they might feel like shame for me even just bringing this up. Like,
Mm,
I don't know if you find this, but I find men to be a lot of men that are kind of shut down emotionally with this stuff. Is that if you bring up something and point out the shame issue before they bring it up, like saying, "Hey, I think I noticed you're in your head. You just look kind of stuck," and they might get really embarrassed. And I've had
yeah.
guys leave and be like, "I think I'm done," right? Because they're so in their shame spiral and they don't know how to deal with it. So
Mm,
I think for a while it was hard to bring that up, but I also was like, yeah, but you came here for something. But sometimes some guys will come and it's just like, I want an erotic massage, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, and we can do that and work with touch. And so in those scenarios too, I'm not gonna push too hard, because like that's what their intention and what they want to come for. And I'm like, yeah, I can give you that experience, and you didn't request to talk about like shame and all that stuff, so like maybe I won't bring it up, and maybe if you keep coming back it'll just naturally come out, right? It's
mm.
hard to it's hard to get guys to just be open about stuff that they feel insecure about, right?
Especially because for the first time you meet someone, they've got to be in a place. It's hard in a short time to get them in a place where they're going to feel comfortable enough to start opening up about sort of deep feelings. So initially, just doing massage touch work just to get them to feel safe in your space is enough, I think, for a first
Yeah.
session, unless they particularly want to be working
Yeah.
on
Well, I
something
say to
particular.
like even with like grinder hookups or whatever and all that stuff, I've never really done that, because I always say I find that I don't feel safe or relaxed enough, right? Whereas like if I'm just come over now, I haven't chatted with this guy, I've just seen a picture. I always find the guy comes over or I go over wherever, and it's not what I expect. You look a little different than your photo. So it's really hard for me to get connected to my body and feel safe when I've had no conversation with this person to
Mm,
discuss boundaries or what I like or what I don't like, maybe very vaguely. And so I don't know this person. So I find the whole time I'm like, I'm in my head and I'm trying to relax, but I can't. But then I have a client come over and I'm like, oh, I can get into it like all the time. But it's because
mm,
we do all these things that I teach guys to do. So I'm like, oh, we're creating safety and we're taking our
yeah,
time slowly getting into it, right?
yeah,
So that's why I'm like, if
yeah.
a
I
guy
get
comes
that.
over here, yeah, if a guy comes over here, I'm like, you don't have to be, you don't have to come or stay hard. Maybe next time you come, you're gonna feel more relaxed because you won't be in your head the whole time
Mm,
about me and how I'm gonna react. You're gonna be like, oh, he was a nice guy. I think I can get into it faster.
mm. I always feel like if I do meet someone, sort of for casual, I I kind of force my kind of practices things on them without them particularly knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Just for example, I'll just go, oh no, can we just pause a minute? I just want to sit you and hold your hands, and they don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm kind of leading
Mm-hmm.
them through. Wonder if that's a control thing. In a way, it is because I want to do what I like. Because I'm
Yeah,
going
yeah.
there to have an enjoyable experience. So I'm like, I know I like this, so I'm going to make sure that I get that out of you. But they always respond well. No one feels like I'm forcing them.
I'll tell you a story. So when one time I did go to hook up with someone, and then it was really funny because I was chatting with them at like 8 in the morning or something online. And I was like, he's asked me to come over. And I was like, oh, I could. But I was like, oh, I have actually a client, but it would take me like an hour and I can head over after. And so he's like, yeah, that's fine. And then so afterwards, I text him and say, like, hey, well, like, I can come over if you're still good. He's like, yep. And then so I'm going over, and then I thought in my head when I got there, like when I was in the elevator, I was like, I wonder why he was like up at 7 a.m. And I was like, oh, if this guy's been up like all night and I'm not in that same headspace.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no shame to that, but I'm not high. So I'm like, I hope that he's not, because we're just going to be in not able to connect. And so I opened the door and I
Mm.
was like, oh yeah, I think that's this experience. And so it was fine, except for he couldn't get hard, which was fine. But so I was like, well, let's just like chat. And so he was going through some hard stuff with his boyfriend or ex or something. And so I start chatting about like my stuff and talking about feelings. And then he kicked me out. It's like, yeah, I think like I shouldn't have brought up feelings and emotions. This guy who
Mm.
like did not ask for that.
I feel like, but maybe he needed it. Maybe he needed that.
Well, I think he needs
You
it, but
know?
needed it then, but was not asking for it. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that was.
It
So
may
that's
have
why I don't
made
really do
a
those.
difference. It may have that just you bringing that up. It may have actually made a difference going forward when you weren't there. How do you find the like H&H thing over in Canada, just in the
H and
gay
H?
scene, like high and horny, that whole kind of
Oh yeah, okay.
chemsex thing?
Yeah, yeah. I think. Well, do they say P and P over there? Party and play.
Yeah, sometimes
Okay.
H&H, PMP, high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of drugs, like had addiction issues. And so I know how I use drugs and alcohol to connect and to be social, but I see how like just guys need to have like a drink or something before they can have sex, or how many guys need some sort of substance to help them
Mm.
to have sex, right? And it's something I think that we just don't really talk about because it's so partying and drugs and sex are such a, or no, drugs and sex, drugs and partying are such a normalized part of our community and how we socialize.
Right.
And it's not saying that everyone who needs a drink is an alcoholic for sex, but it's,
No.
I think a lot of us men, especially, use some sort of crutch to be
Mm.
able to have intimacy and community. And we don't really know how to just like be ourselves and show up all awkward and anxious and know that it's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, I mean, I've sort of experimented. It's not really for me, but I do meet a lot of the places I play in. There will be lots of drugs, and there's some guys that I've made nice sort of friendships with or nice, connections with, and have kind of a couple, few, tried to get them to say, why don't we have a thing together sober? And it scares them. It makes me
Mm.
kind of sad. And I have one of the guys I did particularly do it with, and he said he had a really good experience, but still would prefer to use like substances. And like you say, I actually think just because you use, for recreational does not mean you're necessarily have a problem. I do believe that some people can use and it not be a problem for them. But if you can't connect with someone without it, that is something that I think someone should look at, why they can't connect without using any substance. But this is exactly, I don't know if you've seen, but myself and my best friend, who is a psychotherapist, are setting up a weekly men's group for
Mm,
exactly
yeah.
these reasons. Because we've lost the skill of just connecting with each other and not connecting on any like physical or sexual way, but exactly what you're saying, just to be able to go up to and talk to someone and discover if there is an attraction or if you do want to know more about that person, because we're so used to doing it on apps. And apps are not like, I'm not making apps wrong because they serve a purpose, but not to the point where we don't actually know how to have those experiences, the experiences you were talking about. Where, you don't get those excitement bubbles in your stomach from an app.
Yeah.
fear of, are they going to like me? Were they looking at me? Were they not looking at me? Shall I talk to them? Are they going to hate me? Are they going to like me? That's how we know we're alive, to feel those
Hmm.
things. So we're setting up this group to start to bring a group of gay guys together to start to remember how it would be to meet people in a social kind of environment, because you're not even officially allowed to meet people through work anymore, are you? I think. Like
Yeah, I don't
it's
know.
it's not like if you're dating someone in the workplace or something, you're not actually allowed to do that. So where do people meet apart from apps and site? But that's why the work we're doing is so important, because if you could just spend an hour with someone where we are giving them complete unconditional love and attention and compassion, letting them know that they're worthy of that, because they may never ever experience that. They may be out going to the parties and stuff, and never anyone really be seeing them and being and loving them. Because I
Hmm.
really do think the work I do, and it sounds like you do the same, but is about loving that person. Like, love is a doing thing. It's nice to say, oh, I'm falling in love. It's like something
Hmm.
unexplained. But actually being loving, being devotional, being in service to someone, that's something which people don't always get to experience, and they're afraid to even ask for it. So once they get to see what it's like, they know that, oh, okay, yeah, I can expect this of people now. Because
Hmm.
I think that's the thing with the work we do sometimes, because it's transactional and they pay for it, there's something there that says to them, yeah, I'm paying for it, so it's not real. And when I started off, I used to like charge hardly anything, and I would often do it for no money, because I was like, no, I want to do it because the work is what's important to me. Then people would cancel all the time last minute, or people would come and they would take advantage. And so then I had to start putting my
Yeah.
prices up to basically get people that would then go take it. It would be a price that was a little bit like, this has to be special for me to be able to pay this. And then
Hmm.
you would get the people that were actually really, really interested and needed it. If someone really needs the work, and I kind of go, no, yeah, I know you're going to benefit from this. It doesn't matter about the money. But essentially, you have to put the price up to get rid of the people that are time wasters.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I try to say it because even when I try to say to clients, and so my work is we're in an authentic relationship, right? Like that's what I mean about it's not therapy. You're in a relationship with me, so I'm gonna say
Mm.
what I like, dislike, don't like, whatever, da da da. I'm gonna be myself. So yes, it is a real relationship, but yes, it still is this transactional type of work. What I say is like every single person that you interact with is a relationship with different boundaries. So even when I say to guys like,
Mm.
or like, I really want a boyfriend, I was like, you have to stop like putting your thoughts about what your boyfriend is supposed to look like on someone. Like
Mm.
because you got to figure out like, okay, if I want to be in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship where I feel love, but I've got to give that back. So I can't be like, well, you're going to be my boyfriend, but it means that you have to spend every weekend with me, and that you only have sex with me, and you can't talk to other guys, and like all that shit, right? I'm like, okay, you can't expect, well, that's not love, first of all.
Mm.
That's you consuming someone and needing someone to like give you all the joy and pleasure and everything, because we're taught to be dependent on one person, and that's just it like it's really hard to manage. Like I always say to
Mm.
guys too, I'm like, if the goal is long term, if you guys want to be together for long term of any way, I always say you should discuss like openness in a relationship and how that makes you feel, even if it's just like having deeper relationships with other men that might just be friendships, but maybe there's a bit of a deeper emotional connection that you get from this one guy than your partner, and that's okay. And how does that make you feel? Because
Mm.
you guys are not going to want to fuck each other for the rest of your lives. Like one of you at least will probably want to fuck someone else, and that's normal. And so discuss that now when you're not doing it and see how that makes you feel, and be like, be realistic that things are going to change and you might change, but we can actually make this work long term if we change up the contract of our relationship whenever we need to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really interesting actually, because about 2 days ago I started listening to this audiobook by this writer that kind of, he riles me, which is why I want to listen to the book, because he gets me kind of, it definitely gets me thinking and challenging things. But this book is called, God, what is it? Awakened monogamy, right? And he talks about basically different types of monogamy and how the ultimate type can be an awakened spiritual experience, and therefore you don't need to open the relationship to anyone else. And it sounds beautiful. I mean, the concept of it is incredible, and you think, yeah, like, but that's just not possible because you would need to be like in a relationship with Buddha to be able to have this experience all the time. Two completely enlightened people, committing to each other. Of course, they don't need anything else in the world. Why would they even look for sex anywhere else? Because they're completely, fulfilled and enlightened through being with each other. But that's just this guy's book. I was like, you do realize that not everyone is in a place to be able to live, in that awakened state. So yeah, I was I'm shouting at him while I'm listening to the recording. But it was a lovely idea that you could be, that monogamy could be something which is not just about trying to not have sex with other people, which is kind of what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. But you can't, I think is the thing is you can't control how you feel towards other people. And I think that if I ever closed myself off and was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to only allow you to have intimacy just with you. First of all, it wouldn't work with my work because I'm like, I do it every day with a different man. But but I'm like, oh, I feel like I would be depriving myself from experiences that might help me grow. If I have to turn down every man because it makes you uncomfortable, like I don't want to do that anymore. Like I'm not going to make that choice. People in relationships can choose that, but also understanding that like a lot of the, the need for monogamy sometimes comes from like our own fears and trauma and all that kind of stuff for how we saw relationships. And so that's okay too. I mean, some people are, have so much trauma and insecurity that like monogamy might be the only thing that works for you if you get so triggered. But also it's just an opportunity to start like learning to work on that and feel comfortable. Because I like what I've learned in relationships too, right? Is like I've been with guys that, I've been in love with, but like were like a drug where I was addicted to them, where I was like, if I wasn't with them or if something started to feel off, I would freak out and get so anxious because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this person that I love so much. But it was more of this, like, I think I was gaining something out of it that wasn't really working for me because there were so many ups and downs. Whereas when I'm with guys that I feel like I can see them kiss someone else, I can hear them talk about their own sexual experience, I can say to them, I want you to go explore other guys. Like, I want you to be happy. And if that makes you happy, I'm like, oh, that's the place I want to come from, is where, like, how do I love you as you and see you be happy, or whatever, enjoy your life and be content. I'm not going to stop you from doing those things, even if it is uncomfortable, because it's not always easy. But if I can, that's like a great practice for me to be more loving, and also to work through my own shit, because like I don't know own anybody, like I can't tell anybody what to do. So I can ask for what I want for myself, but I can't control someone's life just to make sure that I don't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, because a lot of us will live out our kind of attachment what was it called, like attachment theory. We will live out what our familiar sort of attachment story is with whoever we're with. And like you're saying, it's a good way when you're in the relationship to then go, oh, I can see here I'm in a really like anxious attachment style. What is that about? Where is that coming from? And every opportunity is for something for us to like work on ourselves and discover where that's coming from, and kind of use it as a way to grow spiritually and developmentally. Have you ever had a kind of polyamorous relationship that means you have more than one important relationship rather than just a sexual experience?
Actually, on Saturday night, Saturday night I went out and bumped into this guy that I used to know from the gym like a long time ago. And so I hadn't seen him in years, but he was like, oh, how are you doing? Like, are you in this you were like in a poly situation or something? And I was like, was I? I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I don't know when, but it was years since I saw him. But I think so one of my teachers, when I did my training, so this is how she explained it. And I'm like, I love this model. And basically what she was trying to teach us is that there's no right or wrong in how you do your relationships, right? Like you can be poly, you can be open, you can be single, whatever. Like, and also it doesn't have to fit into all those separate categories, like, right? Like single can look different for two different single people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so she said because she had a lot of abandonment issues when she was growing up, like her parents took off on her when she was young, and so a lot of issues with that. And so she got married twice when she was young, and she was like, I was just a bitch in these relationships. She said, now I just date like 4 or 5 different guys at once, and if one of them leaves, then it's not such a big deal. But I'm also like pretty casual with them, and she's like, I've never been happier. So her point was like,
Okay.
that's what works for me. And that's what you have to help your clients figure out is like what works for you. And for me, I'm like, I think even in my 20s, I definitely wanted to be open and maybe like, it's not even about just having like random casual sex with guys. It was more so like, I want emotional, deeper connections with guys. And if that means sexually too, that's great. And I want to experience that. And I know I have enough empathy or whatever that I can give that to more than one guy at a time. But back then I thought about it as it was cheating and I would shame myself for like wanting that, right? And
Mm.
now I'm like, but I like this idea of like, yeah, I don't think like I know marriage would never work for me. That would like I would never want to get married because mentally it would fuck me up because it would be like
Yeah.
you are stuck in this, you're trapped. It would make me feel mentally trapped. And so I'm like, I would never get married. I might have like a party to celebrate some relationship, but I would never put that shit down on paper. Unless I had to in some way, but yeah, because I need to feel there's a feeling of feeling free. And when you're with people who also maybe don't make you feel free, who might need a lot more attention or whatever,
Mm.
that can also help me to not feel free. So I have to figure out and make sure that everyone in my life knows that like I need to feel free or I'm going to feel depressed and anxious. So
Yeah.
I need to make sure that everyone allows me to do that in my life.
Yeah, that makes sense. The thing is about marriage, it's definitely like what you're saying about different types of relationships. There's different types of marriages, you know. You can be
Mm.
married to someone where you're completely supportive of each other in being who you want to be and exploring all the things that life has to offer and all the people that life has to offer. But the
Mm.
marriage is just because it's good for when you die that the house just directly goes to you rather than going into probate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
why I got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's legal because
Well,
essentially marriage is just a legal, you know, it's just a, you know,
yeah. Okay, so you are married?
legal.
Or can I ask you how long have you been married?
We've been married 15 years, been together 20
Oh
years.
yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
nice. Congrats.
And we're really supportive of each other's lives. And not why I asked about polyamory, because it was only a couple of years ago that we actually said we'd kind of been open for about 5 years into our relationship. We sort of opened it just to have people join us to sort of, you know, let's experiment with kind of sex. And then I was very much in a place where I'm like, well, what does it matter if I'm there with you when you're doing it or not? Because it doesn't make much difference. So
Mhm.
then it obviously became open, playing separately. So it's very slow kind of development in a way. But yeah, a couple of years ago, we were like, why don't we try and see what polyamory is like, actually having other boyfriends and stuff. It's hard work. It's hard work because, you know, to really be completely like the best person you can be to more than one person. I'm not saying it won't, because we're still in that sort of stage of experimenting, but wow, I found it hard to try and phone that person, tell them I love them at the same time as phoning that person I love them, and feeling guilty when I'm speaking to one of them about the other. And it's great, you know, experience for self-development to be able to go away and then process all the stuff that happened. But it's a bit of an experiment rather than a way I choose to live at the moment.
Well, can I ask you how did you feel then when you were open? Was it all pretty easy for you to open up the relationship and or did you see stuff come up for you of like feeling insecure?
Back then, back like
Yeah.
years ago when we did. No, because it was people joining us, it was kind of like, I mean, we had a great relationship anyway, so for us it was just like, you know, it would just be playful. And I guess luckily the way it happened was it was really exciting to see him with someone else. I used to like really enjoy seeing that. It was kind of, you know, so it didn't worry me if I was there or not. You know, it was still I liked watching it when I was, but I didn't feel threatened or anything if I wasn't there. But I guess that's
Hmm.
because we've both really sort of got each other.
Yeah.
Knowing that, I guess knowing you're really secure with someone, then there isn't that worry that they're going to go off with someone else. So that's the only threat, isn't it? I guess if they're having sex
Yeah.
with someone and you're not there, that you feel a threat that they might leave you.
Hmm.
But you
And
never felt that.
they might. That's the thing that,
Yeah, and you
and that's
can't stop
okay. And
it.
yeah, like I remember this is a like an example of how even if you feel really insecure about that stuff, or if it's really hard for you to do, how you can change. Because when I was in my 20s, I remember dating this guy, my partner at the time, who were in a really committed, loving relationship and all that. But I was so young and insecure that. I remember he would go home to Halifax and visit his ex partner because they used to have a house together and he would go stay with him. And every time he went at the beginning of our relationship, I was like, oh my God, I can't sleep. Like they're probably fucking and like he's going to leave me and he's going to come back and be like, actually, no, I want to like go back with him. And it was so stressful to deal with. But I think also, I think it wasn't just a thing of like I got used to because nothing was going on. Like it was so made up in my head of just that's how afraid I was. But I think that it wasn't just about me like getting used to him doing that. It was about me like realizing, wait a minute, I need to like feel pleasure and joy in my life and feel like I have that because the fear wasn't like, oh, I love this man so much that like I just wouldn't be happy without him. I was like, oh, you're depending on this man for like your happiness. And if you
Mm,
can learn to have things in your life that are your own, that you're passionate about and you care about, and you have lots of friends and people
mm,
that meaningful relationships besides him, it takes off the pressure off someone where you're like, as much as painful as it would be if we broke up or if you left me, I know I would be okay. Like I would still have things in my life
mm.
that make me that have meaning, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think that like even understanding the being able to draw on your sexuality or your eroticism or whatever whenever you can, it's like knowing that you have that power to be able to do that with lots of people makes you feel more content in life, right? Because
But
you
that
need to
that
have.
energy, when we talk about sexual energy, it's the most powerful energy that we have as humans. It's what we're created from. We're created from sex. And once we learn to work with that, you don't even have to be in a sexual experience to be able to, you can be at the bank and get that feeling, and use that power, and it doesn't need to be used in a sexual place. It's just that energy which starts in our sex. It starts in
Did
our
you
sex region, but you can just sort of, yeah, use it
did
in
you
all
just use
areas
that
of
for
your
the
life.
bank? Did you just use that for the bank?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, because it becomes your life force, it becomes not just about sex, it becomes your whole being.
Yeah.
And I like to always try and harness it and use it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I dance every morning. That's the first thing I do when I get up, and I've done that since I moved out from my parents' house, and it's become this like ritual routine. But I realized what I was doing is I was practicing finding my eroticism like every day as a morning practice without realizing it.
Right.
And the reason why
Yeah.
is because I was dancing to like Britney and Madonna, right? So I was dancing to sexual things, but I
Mm.
also was like learning to like when I would dance, there's this place you get to, and like this is what you can experience like in ecstatic dance or just dancing wherever, right? But
Mm.
where you've let go of that, like what do I look like, and like you're just so connected to your body
Mm.
because you've taken a bit of time to move and just get into your body, that there's this like feeling I shoot to get to. Like this is what where I've completely let go and it's almost like I'm not I try to explain this. It feels like I'm so in control of my body that I like can feel every when I dance on mushrooms it feels this way too where I just feel so in control because I'm so connected to my body but I'm not
Mm.
thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm just feeling it out and
Yes.
there's no
Yeah.
wall. And the more anxious I am, the harder it is to get to that place, right? So if something's going on and I'm stressed out, like I'm going to be in my head and it's going to be hard to come back to
Mm.
that place. But practice, right?
Yeah. Like getting
And
into
so
a
it's
no
this,
mind state. So you turning
yeah,
your mind off and just, yeah.
which is
Yeah, get
what
it.
great sex should be like, where you just kind of get into that flow
Mm.
and, you're feeling it out. And you can even do that
Yeah.
in role play that might be a little bit slower and a bit more like intentional with what you have to be. But what I say to guys too with role play is like, I mean, if you're the teacher, right? Like yeah, it might feel silly, but feel that silliness and feel all that stuff and get past that where you can kind of take on this other role that isn't you.
Mm.
And it's a great way to play and pretend to not be. Like if you're so insecure with yourself, be someone else then.
Yeah, that's good. I have to try that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Well, we'll slowly start to wrap it up cuz whatever, it's been really enjoyable talking to you.
Yeah, great.
I just have one more question for you. What are you excited for most in your life right now?
Well, I'm about to. It's so shallow and materialistic, but me and my partner are about to buy a place in Barcelona. We're going to have
Yeah.
start spending a few months in Barcelona every year. So that's the most exciting thing that's happening for me at the moment, which is
Nice.
really materialistic, but it's really like
Yeah.
now it's happening
Yeah.
like this
Yeah, yeah.
second. So
I mean, I wouldn't say that's materialistic because it's also about new experience and
yeah,
change in your life, right?
yeah, it's like new chapter, new people, new yeah, everything sort of new. But it also brings up things of anxiety about the things that I love here now and the work and stuff. Am I going to be losing a little bit of something there? It's also
Mm.
I just love the actually I think that's what it is. I just love the adventure of life, the ups and downs, and seeing what discovering so much about like in our work, having an experience, and it brings up insecurity, fear, happiness, and then going, oh, where's that come from? And it's like this riddle that we're working
Yeah.
on ourselves.
And I also find going back to the thing about being just open to different kinds of relationships and meeting people is I find that my life has made the biggest changes and gone completely in a different direction because of different relationships that have come into my life. Like when I started doing this stuff and working with guys, I was like, oh, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
originally wanted to
great.
be, because I mean, I still am a yoga teacher, but I wanted to be a yoga teacher that just worked with men or like did men's retreats or something like that. But a lot of men don't come to yoga unless it's like a specific all men's yoga class or something. So it was
Yeah,
like, I'm not really connecting with men a lot. And then I realized when I made sex the practice, it was a lot
easier
easier
to
to get men
connect.
to show up.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Good for you. I mean, I'm a yoga teacher as well, and yeah, I think it is also closely linked. You know, mindfulness, spirituality, sexuality. It's like this dance of all of them together.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's every day. It's everything that you do is this experience that kind of right. How does that feel?
Yeah,
And your choices you make every day, and being mindful and intentional with your life.
it's great. I'm enjoying listening to your podcast
Oh yeah.
one so far. Yeah.
Uh, did you listen to? Hang on, actually, we can keep chatting. But well, it
Okay.
was great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.